All right, YouTube, another week, another Venezuela video about how, horribly things are going there. It's just swirling around the toilet. Each time it swirls to the side, people think, oh, maybe the danger is over. Then it goes a little bit deeper down into that hole to go down into the sewers with all the human stench and where that resides with the rats and the cockroaches. That's essentially a good comparison for the Venezuelan system right now. I would say Venezuelan economy, but it goes so much further beyond just the economy at this point. Their new problem is, of course, they are now rapidly approaching, not slowly, though inflation's getting worse at a pretty bad clip. No, they're skyrocketing in inflation to the point at which they're very, very close to quadruple digits as far as how their currency is devalued and worthless. Now, their currency already, some time ago, got down so low in actual value that it was no longer even possible for them to re-import it using like plane loads of bills. They can't even print currency right now, because if they print currency right now, it actually costs more to print it than it's worth. And also the paper costs more than the resulting currency is worth, unless you're using massive denominations. Of course, that's an old hallmark, the Yugoslavia. I've got like, I think, a 10 billion Yugoslav whatever bill from their period of hyperinflation, before they sort of balkanized. And of course, at the time, even though it looks like it should be worth a lot, wow, 10 billion, it's actually enough to buy like a loaf of bread or maybe a carton of milk or something. And that's all it was worth because of hyperinflation. This has happened to countries before. Usually what ends up happening is they collapse. And Venezuela is on the brink of collapse. It has been for a while. The only thing that's really holding it together at this point is the fact that Maduro has the courts on his side, just basically refuses to listen to the parliament there and to the people there, and is basically threatening to kill them all if they try to unseat him, which is what he would do. If they were to make an attempt on him and they failed, he would butcher probably a couple million people. Yeah, he'd drag him through the streets. He'd have a pogrom. That's, I think, why nobody has bothered to do that, because they're afraid that in that chance that they don't successfully put a bullet through his head or run him over with a tank or something else or make him disappear into a hole underground, probably a lot of their kinsmen will die, and outside forces don't really want several million Venezuelans to die. Even if they might not care about the actual bloodshed on Venezuelan soil so much as the economy there, but it makes sense. At the very least, they're thinking pragmatically instead of like a bunch of fucking idiots. Eventually, though, somebody may have no choice but to get involved, regardless of how bad things have gotten and how much bloodshed there may be as a result, because at some point the Venezuelan economy will no longer exist at all. Let's take a tally of the things that have happened. They finally repealed the 2-day work week. I think they're up to 3 now, which by comparison, I guess, is a glowing success. They've started to drill for oil again. Only problem is that oil's basically worthless and they'd need to like quadruple their output in order to break even. The problem being they would have flooded the world oil market and then the oil would be worth even less. They can't really make money drilling for oil right now. I'm not even sure why they're bothering. They've put people into forced labor programs to try to grow food so people don't starve, because they can't afford to buy food from foreign areas, so they're trying to grow their own. They should have done that long ago. They should have landscaped half the countryside into terraced like garden beds and farms and stuff. Get rid of sort of the low rent favela look and space people out and have those actual gardens, and people at the very least they won't starve, or at least as quickly. The medical system there is a joke. It basically is no longer functioning. The educational system's on life support. It's a sad time to be in Venezuela right now. And Maduro's only real solution is, well, I guess, forced labor for more food, which is a pretty draconian step. When even a tin horn regime institutes forced labor, you know things are bad. Because that's sort of a last resort for these tin horn regimes, just to survive, hoping that the situation gets better so they can get back to normal, and that doesn't always happen. I can't foresee that happening easily in Venezuela the way it is right now. That's going to be the problem. And the other thing is, oh, well, we rounded up, like, what was it, I think 20,000 firearms, some makeshift, some unlicensed. They destroyed those. They're implementing a bullet registry. So the idea is you disarm the population, you don't have to worry about being overthrown. Unless the military overthrows you. Why do you think he gives them like double victuals at dinner? Instead of eating, half a meal a day, they get at least one and maybe a half full meals a day, and maybe some cigarettes and some coffee. And that keeps, by comparison, that's like living like a prince in Venezuela right now. I find it funny, and I'm going to keep echoing this. It might sound repetitive, but it needs to be said. It needs to be said because of the level of massive dishonesty that you see among certain people in our government and our media. Groups like Salon and people like Bernie asshole Sanders, who sold out and just bought another fucking mansion anyway, praised Venezuela and said everything's great back when it was doing well, when the oil boom hit them, when oil was very expensive. Oh, look at how rich they're getting. Look at how rapidly they're advancing. See, socialism can work. We should adopt some of this stuff for our country. And then the oil downturn happened because, of course, like all socialist regimes, there was no competition. There was no reason for them to innovate. There was no reason for the economy to branch out into anything other than, hey, oil, oil. Oh, yeah, and here's more oil. That's all their economy ever was. It's all their economy will be as long as socialists are in power there. They're never going to have the amount of money they need to invest in anything else now anyway, unless they have a total reset. To the point at which a total collapse in Venezuela is now the preferred outcome. Draconian as that may sound, a total collapse in Venezuela is now preferable to all of their other options, because their other options boil down to you will continuously be in debt, you will never fund any program, you will continue to suffer hyperinflation, people will continue to be hungry, hospitals will continue to be poorly run, people will suffer from epidemic diseases, and a lot of people will die and get thrown in this tin horn's dungeons. That's not preferable to, hey, yeah, the economy just completely flatlined, we're getting restructured by the IMF, we're going to be in debt for a while, now at least we've got the funds necessary to branch out and do something that doesn't require forced labor or oil drilling. That's now preferable to their other options. Maduro no longer has anything that he can really do to prop up the economy. Do you think that putting people out in the fields, many of which know nothing about farming, they're like metropolitan population, is going to help them grow enough food? No, because what do people generally do out in the field? Oh, they're working hard. Well, that means they need to eat more unless you want them to start starving to death. Are you going to double their rations? Well, then you've just wasted the extra food that you're growing. Okay. Well, you've just mopped up some of your excess unemployment and fed the productivity back to them. And that's the point. That's why he's doing it. Don't you understand? The reason why Maduro is doing that isn't to actually make food for the whole country, because there's no way to really do that. They don't have the technological means because they never invested in them. What will end up happening is that the people that are being given this sort of brute labor aren't technically unemployed at the time. And then they get like a double ration because that's what they're worth as far as the food that they're growing. Therefore, you've kind of broken even while at the same time making it look like unemployment isn't so prevalent in a country where I think it's like, what, 25%, 30%, or some insane number like that, and their currency's worthless. So at least those people aren't starving. They're worked hard, they're not getting anything out of it, but they didn't starve to death, I guess, and it makes the unemployment look a little bit lower. So hopefully maybe some foreign investor will say, oh, well, things appear to have improved a little bit, I think I'll invest here. He'd be dumb to do so, but maybe they will. Maybe they'll be dumb enough to do that. Some of these foreign investors probably are. You get somebody like George Soros, he'll come in and give you all sorts of money as long as he can bring some bad things with him. So yeah, Venezuela's on the ropes. Their currency is now worthless. It's literally worthless. Like if it was almost worthless before, it was like, oh yeah, I got 1,000 bolivars, I just bought a cantaloupe. Now it's like I got 10,000 and I just bought, what a penny would generally buy for you. To the point at which somebody who wants to like collect currency, if you can get hooked up with some Venezuelan currency, oh, they would love to trade you for US dollars. You give somebody in Venezuela 100 US dollars, you can get probably a whole pallet of Venezuelan currency if you really want to. You can use it for firewood if you really want to. Pay them like 50 bucks, get a whole pallet of this stuff, use it for kindling. Put it outside and let the birds rip it apart and use it for bird nests, or just wallpaper your house with Venezuelan currency. I've actually thought about that. I thought maybe I should decorate this room. I'll buy sheet after sheet of Venezuelan currency. It'll cost me like 10, 20 bucks. and I'll get my wallpaper, 10, 20 more bucks to have it shipped, and that's fine. I've helped some Venezuelan person who can hook me up, and they've now got a small fortune. 40 US dollars, you know how much that'll buy down there? Probably buy a month's groceries down there, assuming that you can find the food to buy. But it'll put you into a better situation than you were before. That's a good. If I have any like Venezuelan viewers, I mean like legit, you're living in Venezuela. If you know how I can get a hold of that, or you can like obtain sheets of Venezuelan currency, smaller denominations that wouldn't cost as much, I'd probably be willing to buy a bunch of those sheets. Because when Venezuela collapses, it'll either be worth a lot more if they deflate their currency, or it'll be a priceless, potentially collector's sort of relic thereafter, because it's not like the government's really printing very much of it right now anyway, and some people collect currency. It'd be interesting. Or literally, I might wallpaper a side of my bedroom with it. Yeah, it's not good. Somebody needs to take Maduro out, but even if he's taken out, who's to say that whoever takes over will do any better a job? But at this point, the opposition probably couldn't do anything in order to heal the country other than take away the draconian laws, beg for foreign governments to fund them so they can branch out their economy and save the people from starvation, running up debt in the process. It'd be sort of like Obamonomics or something. It's basically the only thing they have left that they can do. That's about all. Peace out.